This is Food is a Conversation Alumni Edition, Tuesday evening sessions again. I'm Julia Dalmadi, the host of these conversations where we introduce former students of the Future Food Institute educational program. Let me invite Beatriz Jacoste, who is our guest for today, and we will start with the discussion. While, by the way, we are very busy organizing our 24-hour marathon for tomorrow, so check out our YouTube channel tomorrow, basically from 6 a.m. CET, 24 hours. You will have the biggest learning session ever broadcasted on the food system. In the same time, waiting for Bea. Exactly. Hi.
Hello, Julia.
Nice to see you. Thanks for joining me today. So I was just shortly explaining what this session is about, and also the session where you are also participating tomorrow, the Food for Earth Day. And now basically Bea used to be one of the former Food Innovation Program students, exactly the second edition. And currently she's based in Valencia and works for the KM0 Food Innovation Hub. So welcome, Bea. Thanks for joining me. Would you mind sharing us something about yourself and what is your connection to the Future Food Institute?
Yes, thanks, Julia. I'm always excited to do things with Future Food. So whenever I can, I'm like, yes, all the way. So this morning, exactly, I was proposed to do what you were mentioning will be happening tomorrow with FAO. So I'm very excited to do that as well. And so my connection with Future Food goes back 4 or 5 years already. So it's been a long time. And I've learned everything I know now about food is from all those years doing very cool and crazy stuff with the Future Food Institute. So what happened was I was working in Berlin. I know you've been in Berlin for many years as well. So I was working there in matters related to diplomacy and international relations. And I discovered a field within all the international relations, which was called gastrodiplomacy. So I became increasingly interested in food. So many things happened along the way. But then finally, what happened was that I was back in Spain. I was in my mom's kitchen doing cooking workshops for children. And I had 10 kids every day in my kitchen.
Wow.
And what I intended to do was to teach through food. So to teach about everything, about geography, physics, languages, about the world. So I was just seeing food as such a powerful tool. And I really wanted to do something with impact. So I thought, this is amazing. I really love what I'm doing. I'm seeing the impact in kids, but the impact is not enough because I can only host 10 kids a day. So I will have a very limited influence. So this is when I found out about the Future Food Institute, and I took a plane to Bologna, and I went to meet Sarah, and I was buzzing the office for a few days because, you know, Sarah is a very busy woman. And finally one day she listened to me, and I talked to her about doing this kids lab in Future Food. So she really loved the idea. She was also very committed to doing something with impact and future generations. So we started drafting out the Food Tech Kids Lab. So that's how everything happened. And then yeah, I had no education in food whatsoever. So that's why it was important for me to do the food innovation program and understand more about the workings of the food system.
I see. So basically you started to work with the Institute first through the Kids Lab, and then you joined the Food Innovation Program.
Exactly, yeah.
I see. So you are also, you were part of the first global mission, right? Because the first Food Innovation Program had Expo in Milan, so the world came kind of to Italy, so they could participate in a different way. how did your project evolve during the global mission? Because your format was also a bit different. You didn't have research topics like our batch had, but rather you had your own challenge, what you were working towards. So
Yeah.
what was this challenge?
So I was very lucky because my challenge was with the Jamie Oliver Foundation. And the Jamie Oliver Foundation does a lot of work with kids as well. So I got to learn more about my personal area of interest. But the specific challenge was about how to improve the life of people working in restaurants, which was very important at that time because there is a very big turnover in
Yes.
restaurants because we know how hard it is to work in a kitchen. It is not as sexy as MasterChef shows it. So restaurants have very big retention problems of talent. So my mission was to talk to many chefs around the world and people cooking in kitchens, because we have to remember not only chefs are there, but many more people, also people doing the dishes, and many people behind those walls. So I was trying to understand their needs and trying to understand their concerns and their deepest desires to be able to create that kitchen that would be able to attract and retain more talent. So
Yeah,
I was
that's
basically meeting many chefs around the world, eating delicious food and learning a lot, a lot.
Yes. So the education through food is something that is recurring, and it has been also recurring during your last few years. And you have been involved in multiple children educational projects where food was the core element. Would you mind telling us a bit about it, and what did you learn from these experiences?
So my first experience was in Berlin. It was with a project called Kimba Mobil, which was a bus with a kitchen incorporated inside. And we would go to schools in the suburbs of the city to teach them about fresh foods and how to prepare them. And I thought this was mind blowing because of the effect it had in like the working between children from different cultures. Because what happened in Berlin was that many immigrants were in classes and they didn't have the level of German as their colleagues. So they weren't considered or perceived as capable of doing their assignments as the German students. Whereas what we saw in these cooking classes was that they were much more knowledgeable because maybe they saw their moms at home cooking. And so German students changed their perception of their colleagues, and this helped them to work much better throughout the whole year with their classmates. So this was very mind-blowing for me, and it really showed me the power food can have for intercultural understanding, for economic development, and so on. So that was my first project. The second one was what I briefly mentioned when I started my own cooking classes at home, in which I was teaching languages and culture through food. So what would happen in those cooking workshops was that each day we would work on a specific country and we would learn a lot about the country. So not only about the cuisine. So for example, one day we did Thailand, and we would learn about the geography, so where it was located, a bit about its people, some words, the ingredients they used, why they were using those ingredients, and so on. And then we would cook the dish. So it was a much more complete understanding of the food than just what they made out of the plate.
Yeah,
Then the
and
third
most probably
project.
way more enjoyable for the kids as well to learn about geography through food.
No, definitely. And I'm sure they can remember things much better than what they just had to memorize in books. We've seen that hands-on learning is much more effective for memorizing and for keeping in mind knowledge. So that was my first intention. Then I met Sarah, and all of this happened. So we started to develop the Food Tech Kids Lab in Bologna. And we did various projects. For example, we were involved with Maker Faire, which is a big maker movement. And we developed within Maker Faire many workshops in which kids had to use technology and food. So for example, there's a little machine which I'm not sure, I think you have seen it, but I'm not sure everyone else who is listening has seen it. You can attach fruits to certain cables and then make music out of it. It's called
I haven't seen this.
You haven't seen it?
No.
No. Okay, so it's a music instrument made out of food. And
That's
so
amazing.
with the kids in the Maker Faire, we would play that instrument, and they would also have to think about solving big challenges related to climate change and so on through food. So we would work on problems that are real for the society in a very fun way, and they would find solutions for them. That's what happened in Italy. And finally, nowadays, since it's not my main job nowadays to work with children, but it's something I really love and I really miss. So I really pushed hard to continue doing something at KM0 with kids. And what we are doing is some camps. So it's longer. It's not just a workshop, but it's a weekly program in which kids also work on a certain challenge. So for example, designing the snack of the future, and they have to develop the solution. So not only make the product itself, but think about what packaging it's going to go in, how it's going to be sold, where. So all the business model, everything our food entrepreneurs have to learn, that's what we are trying to teach children.
It cannot be early enough. I think these methods, this way of thinking has to be already planted very early stage. So after you left Italy, actually we already met the KM0 hub during the global mission. Unfortunately, not me personally, because I was on the other leg. But now you work with them. So what do you do for the hub, and what does KM0 represent in Spain?
So KM0 is a think tank that studies the future of food and supports projects, people, and entrepreneurs that want to change that future of food for good, especially in the Spanish territory. So the ways we are doing that is through various mechanisms. So one of them is mentorizing and supporting and even investing in some food tech startups. So for example, we have a project that has developed flavored eggs. So eggs that have the flavor of truffles, ham, cheese. They're developing eggs with chocolate flavor, for example.
Wow.
So for you to imagine the process we follow when I say we help them, is they come with their idea. It can be a very initial idea, and we help them develop everything, like even support them in the technology, in opening up a production plant or doing pilot plans to see and test if what they have in mind really works. We help them go to market. So it's a very complete process of supporting those startups. And we are able to do it because KM0 is supported by some of the main Spanish food producers. So they really have the knowledge. It's not like any acceleration or incubation program that is transversal. Ours is only vertical in food, and we have people that work with food technology, food businesses, and so on. And we have all the contacts. So it's really helpful for a young entrepreneur that wants to get in the market. So That's one of the lines of work. Another important one that is going to be really transformed because of this whole crazy situation is an annual event we do. Last year, Sarah, the founder of Future Food Institute, was with us. We also had with us Cass, Joseph Puglisi, people from Too Good to Go, Deliveroo, etc. So all the main players creating that future of food were with us in September last year here in Valencia. And that's something that really doesn't happen very often in Spain. So there are many food events in Spain, but they're all quite national. So they don't bring or open out to the international community. And I think that is very valuable. That's something I learned from Future Food Institute. They always used to say that the future is here, but it's not evenly distributed.
Yes.
So looking out of your borders to look out for solutions is very useful, because sometimes you're struggling with a certain problem and you waste a lot of time in trying to find the solution, but someone in the other side of the world has already found it. So that's the reason we wanted to make a relevant international event. And we managed to do it like in a very startup way, very fast. We managed to put up an amazing project and a book linked to it. So it's not only the event, but also a book that gathers all the best practices that can serve as inspiration for anyone. So from companies to entrepreneurs to farmers to food retailers and so on. This book gathers best practices that can serve as inspiration for them to improve the way they're working. So those were the two main lines of work we had. Now this second one, you must imagine, has changed. Because of the circumstances we're living in, we can't, for the moment, have physical events. So that's why we have created an online platform with multimedia contents that anyone can access, and they can contribute and also see how the future of food is being reshaped very rapidly because of all these circumstances. So that's what I'm doing basically every day. I'm studying new consumer habits, understanding what goes in the shopping carts of Spanish people to understand their new priorities, and so on. So we're trying to study as fast as possible the situation to predict and create whatever we want to be ready for the day that everything goes back to the new normal, to be as prepared as possible.
Yes.
And by the way, I have the book here to show you.
Ah, yes, please.
Yeah, this is it. It's called
exactly.
Yeah.
Futuristic.
Exactly. It's called Futuristic. And it was always linked to the event I mentioned. But this year we're making it online and open so that anyone during this crazy situation can have access to it, and it will be adapted to the COVID situation. So how all this pandemic, all this crisis is transforming everything.
Very nice. This book has been published in Spanish, right?
Exactly, only in Spanish, but this year we are going to make it in English to make it available for all of you guys.
For all of us, exactly. Thank you. Thank you. So besides this book, you actually wrote another book last year as well, right? I stalked correctly. So do you want to tell me about that project a bit?
Yeah. I've always loved writing, and even more if it's for someone I love. And this was a book for my grandma, and it collected all of her recipes. So I think it's very, very important for my family, but for anyone who can do it, I would encourage them to do it, because flavor really brings you back to your roots, and it's something really deeply connected to your feelings. And so I would really encourage you, if you still can, to gather all your mom's recipes, your grandma's, your family's, and that's what I did, and I shared it with my whole family. And now I'm creating another book I don't know if I told
Yes.
you about this one.
No, not
No.
yet. I'm very
Okay. Look,
curious.
I also have it here.
Well
So,
prepared.
so this book is a recipe book from the COVID. So the all the recipes that I'm eating during these days, I
Okay.
yeah, I'm sure I'll gain 80 kilos after this, but it's okay. I try to do some exercise. I'm not
Same here.
managing as well as my friends. Everyone I see on Instagram exercising is doing a much better job than I am, but
Well,
I am
that's what they
eating
post.
a lot. Yeah. And look, so we are
Oh,
making
that's
a
beautiful.
super cool book with some drawings about
Amazing.
the whole process of each recipe we're eating. So yeah, I'll also share it with you guys after this
Please.
situation. I hope this book is very short because it will mean the situation ends quickly. So
Yes, I
I
hope
hope
so
I
too.
don't have to draw anymore.
Yes, but maybe you can start a movement and people can start drawing these beautiful recipes. We had also a Pemini workshop, a virtual one recently as a reunion with the other classmates, and we had Alejandra drawing similar
Mm-hmm.
similar doodles.
Nice.
So in the meanwhile, to our audience, we still have like 9 minutes to go. I have some wrap-up questions, but if you would have questions to Bea, please post it in the chat and we will try to answer before leaving this session. So besides drawing your cooking experiences, how do you see your food consumption habits has changed during the last weeks?
Mm-hmm. So, as I have told you, I'm cooking much more. So, from what I researched in Spain, 40% of the times we eat used to be out of the house. So, you can imagine almost half of the meals weren't prepared at home, and now they have to be prepared at home because we can't go out. So of course I'm cooking much more. That means I'm buying much more food, and also the items in my cart are changing a bit.
Mhm.
Because for example, before I used to buy very healthy foods because that would be the foods I would be eating at home, and then when I would go out with friends or family, I would eat whatever I wanted.
Indulge. Yes.
Exactly. So that's what we are seeing not only in my cart but in general in the consumers. They're also buying more gourmet or more special products because they can't go out and have them. So people are learning how to cook more and better. They have been obliged to jump in and start cooking even if they were scared. Even me, I would have never made, for example, a tiramisu or like very simple things, but that I would have never made because those were types of dishes I would only eat out. So now I'm learning how to make many more things and also buying things that wouldn't usually be in my shopping cart. Something that we have seen that consumers are buying much more online, for example, and it has not been my case because I have a supermarket nearby, so it's my only excuse to get some fresh air. So I'm not
Yes.
going to say no to that. And what else about my changes in consumption? I think not much more. Yeah, because it has been like so changing because before in Spain we have a very heavy culture of going out. So
Yeah.
when restaurants were shut down, everything changed. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, now that I'm not based in a big city, what I see, I don't think people necessarily went out too much because there is not much available in this small town in Hungary. But I'm shocked about the availability and the accessibility to fresh produce. That here people are very limited to supermarkets and bigger chain supermarkets, so not even the smaller vegetable stores. And it's not so it's like this industrialized place between the countryside where you are still really close to the farm and but still not developed enough to have all the offer
mhm,
from a capital, for example.
mhm.
So if you could wish for or design or imagine the future, what we are heading towards post-COVID, and even if we disregard this, what would be your utopistic future, especially regarding our food system?
Mm-hmm. So my wishes were that we are able to reconnect. I don't know how. I don't know if it will be in person, but I hope we will find real ways of reconnecting, because through screens, through the mechanisms that we are using nowadays, it's not enough. Like sharing a glass of wine through a screen with a friend is good enough for now, but still doesn't give you the same sensation. So I'm aiming at reconnecting. I don't know if physically, but at least looking for ways of reconnecting in a real human way. And the second thing is that I hope it's related to what you mentioned about the availability of food. I hope we are able to have shorter food supply chains. So I don't know if it's because we will be growing food in urban centers, or because we manage the logistics better. For example, in Spain, we have seen that farmers are using platforms like Farmidable, La Colmena, and several to sell their products to houses, to private households, and we have seen that those have grown a 400%, because supermarkets weren't able to cope with the increase in online sales. So that is a very big opportunity for farmers to jump in to urban centers and to sell their products, because there is maybe not enough readiness in supermarkets to do that. Exactly. So those would be my, of course, like a food system that goes back to what food is, which is nutritious and tasty, and not artificially created, which has been what we have seen lately. So yeah, I foresee a tasty, nutritious, and human food future.
I'm looking forward to this future. So these are amazing closing words. So before cutting our conversation off, I would like to invite everyone for tomorrow's Food for Earth session. You can also listen to Bea again during the session broadcasted from the Netherlands and hosted by one of our other alumni members, who will be actually on the Food is a Conversation Alumni Edition on Thursday morning. If you are busy tomorrow and you won't be able to join, don't worry, because on the Future Food YouTube channel, you will have all of the sessions uploaded for later, to watch them later. And for now, Bea, thank you so much. It was such a nice conversation. And even though it was through a screen, I'm really happy I could see you a bit. And we see each other tomorrow.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Julia.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Ciao.